Finished them today.
All right. Beth, will yours be ready tomorrow? Can't hear you. You're muted.
You're on mute.
Okay, yes, they will be there in the morning.
Good.
Me too. Or I should say lunch.
Well, I better finish mine tonight, I guess.
Yep.
Peer group pressure. It's terrible.
Me too.
We are live streaming on YouTube.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So Beth, you're okay. So we're going to call the November 10th meeting of the Village of Gates Mills Council to order.
Allworder,
Here.
Frankel,
Here.
Reynolds, Sog,
Yes.
Turner,
Yes.
Welsh,
You're on mute, Ed.
Welsh,
He's muted.
I don't even see him.
Still muted.
Yeah.
He's here. He's just quiet.
He's muted. He's got on mute.
Okay.
There we are.
he is.
There he is.
Hello, I'm sorry.
that's all right. Welsh,
Here,
Whitney.
Here.
Okay. The first thing on the agenda is minutes of the council meeting for October 13th.
Still muted.
move to approve.
I'll second.
Second.
Motion made by Welsh and seconded by Mary Reynolds. Allworder,
Yes.
Frankel,
Yes.
Reynolds, Sog,
Yes.
Turner,
Yes.
Welsh,
Yes,
Whitney.
Yes.
Okay. Next is pay ordinance 1243 for $696,417.95.
move to approve.
Second.
Who made the motion, please?
Ed,
Good.
Ed, followed by Nancy. Allworder,
Yes.
Frankel,
Yes.
Reynolds, Sog,
Yes.
Turner, Welsh,
Yes,
Whitney.
Yes.
okay. Next is financial statement treasurer's report. Tim?
Thank you.
Where's Tim?
Our overall revenues are at this stage 252,000 lower than this time last year. Our real estate tax receipts are now $15,791 greater than year to date 2019, indicating that if there was a COVID-related impact on real estate taxes, it did not exceed normal growth in this revenue stream. Municipal income tax receipts are 228,000 lower than this time last year. Our operating expenses are 65,500 lower than year-to-date 2019, and all operating departments are spending well under budget, with several planned expenses deferred due to COVID-related management actions. Year-to-date, the general fund is operating at a surplus of $371,415. Our total reserves are only $49,800 less than this time last year. We normally expect real estate taxes to drop to zero in the final months of the year. There is some uncertainty around this number in 2020 because of the delayed payment deadlines. Nevertheless, we believe that we have received nearly all of the real estate taxes for the year. Municipal income taxes normally will continue through the final months on a generally steady path. However, this month, November, not October, but in November, we have received an unusually large payment from our agency, RETA. This payment includes a very large estimated tax payment from one taxpayer. We are told that we should receive a similarly sized payment for 1Q 2021. It's too early to tell if these large payments will continue and become a permanent part of our revenue structure. That said, the payment will put our overall financial position in for 2020 and also 2021 into a meaningful surplus, and will have a significant positive impact on our long-range financial plan projections. I want you to note that individual taxpayers' information is highly confidential. And so we won't be in a position to answer specific questions on this particular payment. However, I will be able to provide more detail on the financial impact of the tax payment with our November statements. While I recommend the council continue to pursue initiatives around cost reductions and additional other revenue sources, I feel the consideration of a tax revenue increase is no longer warranted at this time. That's my report. Are there any questions?
I have a question. Since we halted some what we thought were pretty important capital expenditures, are we going to reconsider that soon?
I
Our
would say,
snowplow truck with the winter weather coming on.
I'm not sure about that at this moment, really.
Well, I think
We'll
we
have to discuss it. This has all happened in the last
week.
short period of time.
I just think it's something we deferred that seemed pretty important. So if we're thinking about having a really bad winter, and that's a meaningful addition to our service department, I think that we ought to at least look at something like that. That really concerned me when we deferred it. So
Point taken, we'll discuss it.
Come back with a recommendation.
Maybe Dave could comment on that, whether or not he feels he's going to be in a position to have difficulty with the snowplows he has.
Well, it's not a matter of that. It's even if we order it tomorrow, odds are we would be lucky to even get it in this plow season. So certainly I don't think we want to wait too long, but I don't, I don't know the availability of the chassis and then the schedule to get it to the guy with the equipment. We probably wouldn't get it for this season.
Well, that's helpful because it takes the pressure off of us. But it was just a thought.
I think that's a very good comment, that we're lucky enough to find ourselves in this position, and we had to make some tough decisions as far as expenditures to defer. And all of them were worthy of being in our budget to begin with. I mean, we were really, really analyzing what we could live without, but not permanently, but just, in the short term. So if we're lucky enough to be able to get back to some of those projects or pieces of equipment, capital equipment, I agree with you. We should at least,
I think we're going to be looking at all that, Tim, aren't we, with budget coming up very soon?
Yeah, we certainly, we're going to go through a budget process very soon. And what I would also say is that, look, those deferrals were made because we were concerned about the impact on revenues of COVID, but also because we were concerned about an ongoing structural deficit. So what I would suggest is that while, yes, we absolutely need to consider when and how we bring up deferred expenditures, I'd urge some caution on that. Let's go slow, make sure we understand the financial impact, appreciate the fact that this unexpected amount of tax revenues is, we're not sure that it's permanent, and we want to be careful as we look forward.
And we're coming up within a couple of weeks of looking at budgets. So I think it's appropriate to take into consideration everything we did pull out going forward. So it's a point well taken.
Yep.
Thank you. I really appreciate your advice, Tim. I just was thinking about the predictions, and I'm glad to know Dave says it really can't help right now anyway. So it really does put us in a position to put it back into next year's budget.
Sure.
Okay, any other questions for Tim? Okay, we're going to move on to Mayor's report. Got quite a few things. First, I'd like everybody to know that I got an email that the governor is going to deliver a speech Wednesday evening at 5:30 to all Ohioans. He did not give a speech. Normally he's been doing it on Tuesdays and Thursdays. He didn't do it tonight, but tomorrow at 5:30 to discuss the critical stage Ohio is in battling COVID-19 and its impact on Ohio moving forward. So when he's done other ones, I haven't gotten an email on it like this, so it must be, I would say it's going to be very important, and so it's important to everybody to tune in and see what he's going to say, and I'll send whatever they send afterward out to everybody as I've been doing.
So it's at 5:30?
5:30 tomorrow. It doesn't say what channel. I'm assuming it must be on multiple, but 19 for sure. Okay, next is our Halloween drive-through was very well received. And everyone at the last trick or treat station that I was at, everybody thanked us and they loved it. They really were so thankful we did something special for the kids. I can't tell you, every car said the same, thank you. You remembered the kids and everyone. They were just touched by it. I want to thank Jean and both of her daughters, Cassandra and Gabby, who helped her with all the organizing and helped at the event. Thank you to our service department, especially Mike and Jeff, our police department, to Gail Minicello, she was there that night, to John and Chris Kramer, to our Janet Mull, to Judy Palesi for staying the course. They all did a great job that night. It really went terrific. Also, I want to say that political signs are a problem. We have too many. Our sign ordinance went into effect October 8th. We chose, since it was so close, not to drive people crazy about taking them down, and we weathered the storm of complaints, and there were many for both sides. But now it's time to get these down. The ones that are oversized in the village, if they're oversized and lighted, they need to be removed. We'd like to, you can recycle them right now at our service department. It'd be nice to get everything cleaned up before the snow flies and the holidays hit us. So please, let's get rid of the signs. Okay, next, we've got lots of compliments this week, which is, I always like saying these. This one is on the evening of Thursday, October 29th, our officers respond to several auto break-ins. Several of our residents were able to confront the individual and provide detailed suspect information. With the assistance of your departments, we were able to contain and capture the suspect. Over the past few months, many communities have been plagued with a rush of auto break-ins. The arrest of the suspect shows the great teamwork and dedication of every officer that responded. I want to thank all your officers who assisted in this incident and feel very fortunate to have such a great relationship with our surrounding communities. Please pass along my appreciation to all officers who assisted, and that's from Chief Paul Matthias for Mayfield Village. And there was help from Highland Heights, our Gates Mills with Greg, and from Willoughby Hills Police Department. Also, a thank you note from Umberto Fideli, because that was involved with Chief, correct me if I'm wrong, in the car in the driveway and called us, and that's how we got all involved.
Yes, that's correct.
And he would, he wants us to share with our resident how fortunate and happy we are with the department. Especially in today's violent environment and unfortunate situations the first responders in our country have been facing with so much negativity and press. We are beyond appreciative for all that you and your officers do for so many of us. So it's another, that was from them. We got a real nice thank you from Keith Kelly from Mayfield Schools, who is retiring, and Sandra's going to talk about that a little bit in a minute. Also from Bill Bannon, again, I won't read all of it. You have the nicest police officers, and I'm so glad that I am resigning in Gates Mills. I feel so safe in our community.
That's great.
And then, this is an interesting one. I've had a request I'm writing to you as a concerned constituent of yours and a resident of the Village of Gates Mills. The issue at hand is streetlights and sidewalks. I feel that this way because our neighbors, a few people on the street have dogs that run around and whatnot, and it's hard to see them. And he's also been forced to walk in the dark in the middle of the street and has almost been hit by a car. Anyway, the point is, would we ever consider sidewalks and streetlights? From a resident.
Bird sanctuary.
Pay attention, I'm not yay or nay, I'm just saying that's what's out there. Also, tomorrow is the service lunch. If you're inclined to come at 11:30, it starts until I think 12:30, and it's going to be a food truck this year. And so they invite, it's put on by the Garden Club, Community Club, and I think that's all. Anyway, and so that is tomorrow. The next thing is, the chief will help out here. We have some pictures, and I'm going to let him talk about this. We had the award ceremony for our resident in the community house, and you're going to put the pictures up, Tom, and
Yes,
talk.
I gotta put the pictures up and hope that I can still see you, but I probably won't be able to. All right, are you able to see
Oh,
the picture?
Not yet.
That is Chris, the award winner. We've talked about this. It was in the pink sheet also. Chris is the one that actually saved a woman who had crashed. Two women crashed in front of his house. The car ended up on its side and started on fire. And the passenger was trapped in the car. So he tried to pull her out of a big hole in the windshield, which wasn't big enough, ran back to the house and used the sledgehammer to open up the windshield enough to pull her out. I nominated him for a Citizens Award from the State Fire Marshal's office, and he was one of those individuals selected. So the picture you see is
We don't
actually.
see a picture. Do you see a picture, anybody?
No.
No,
Nobody's
don't.
got a picture.
Not yet.
It was
Yes,
attended by
yes.
the state fire marshal and his assistant. Senator Dolan came, myself, Tom, Julie from the paper came with a photographer, and Chris, his wife and son came.
There was a very, very, very nice article in the Chagrin Valley Times.
Right.
With the group of you, extending your congratulations and giving him the award. So if we can't get a picture up tonight, Tom, from you, last Thursday's paper had a very nice article about the award. So
Yeah, he's got that, but they sent us the pictures from the day, so he was going to show it.
That's, I am trying to still do that.
So are you, Tom, are you hitting the green button, share screen?
Yes, yeah.
And then you have to pick, there we go.
Oh, we're going now.
There we go.
there we are.
So,
Very nice, very nice.
so there's the first one that I was talking about.
Is that the lady that was saved?
No,
No,
that's
they did not come.
Okay,
Chris's wife
okay,
and his son,
son.
Michael.
good.
And it was very sweet because he had not been emotional. He said the whole time this was going on, I'm sure the day it happened, it was adrenaline and whatnot, but he really got emotional at this because both Senator Dolan and the state fire marshal, they really, this will stick with you the rest of your life that you saved a life. It was very, very nice.
That is great.
And the
Yeah.
mayor also presented a proclamation, and that's
Right.
what this last image is the proclamation from the village.
Very nice,
He was very touched.
very nice.
That's great.
So I wanted you to see that.
Very good.
Okay, and this rolls right into our next subject with the chief, and
Oh,
we have pictures with this.
yes, we will try and do that too. Hold on.
I know everyone's interested, and it won't be in his report until next month, but I wanted to talk about it this month, considering it just happened. That one of the houses that was occupied by one of the groundskeepers for the hunt club. So it was a large fire that was Saturday night, or Sunday morning, I should say, at 3 a.m. The call came in. And it took our guys about 10 minutes to get there, which is, with the truck and everything. Have I said that right? Tom?
Minutes and 5 seconds. So
Okay.
are you able to see the,
No, not yet.
Not yet.
really?
Is that the new truck or the old truck?
New
Old
truck
truck.
and old truck.
All trucks.
Old truck.
All trucks, right?
All trucks.
It was a big fire.
And with assist from which communities? Mayfield Village and others?
It was assistance from Pepper Pike, Willoughby Hills, Mayfield Village, Mayfield Heights, Lyndhurst, Chester.
Wow.
And Highland Heights.
Must have been hard to protect the houses adjacent because they're so close.
Yep,
that-
the exposures are, when you have that kind of damage going on, that volume of fire, you're always concerned about the exposures. And they are, relatively close
And,
to that structure.
and Tom shared with me this afternoon that I had guessed that they were built in 1890. Because Karen, you remember when you and I did that whole study on on all the buildings on Old Mill and on River Road and their date of origin and their inclusion in our inventory of historic homes. But Chief told me he found evidence that the house was built in what, 1850, did you say?
It looked like from records that was 1850. There was another one listed at 1900, built in 1900.
Even still, we're talking about 100-year-old wooden structures. And so you can imagine, just like we all remember when the Hunt Club itself burned down, that they're a tinderbox. And when that flame takes over the interior spaces between walls and moves up from the basement or first floor up to the roof, and that's just one big giant.
You hit that green button, Tom?
I'm trying. Very trying.
I'm going to keep talking because I want a couple of things. We had two brand new firefighters on the scene, Jake Conti and Julian Mangalusi, who this was their really first big fire, and they both did very well. I have to say, I thought it was, when I got down there, because they were busy, things were wrapping up, but at the very end, a debrief, which was very interesting from the standpoint. And I took a picture of all the guys because they all participate in it and they all get to, talk about what they, something that did or didn't work or, whatever happened during the whole thing. And it was, in fact, Chip walked up when that was going on at one point. And it was fascinating to hear how everything worked together and the other companies come in and they report. And our Rob Jameson was the one that was controlling all of them coming in, right, Tom?
Yes, Rob was Captain Jameson was the incident commander for this fire and did an excellent job.
Everybody did an outstanding job. I mean, pretty amazing.
Karen, while we're waiting for Chief to get these pictures, and I can give a little shout out to Ann Whitney, who taught me this little lesson, is that coincidentally, the weekend before was when we changed our clocks back an hour. And Ann taught me as a newcomer into Gates Mills that is your cue, both in fall and in spring, regardless of whether you think your batteries are still operable, you change the batteries in your smoke alarms. And so the smoke alarms saved that family. They did tell me that the smoke was so thick by the time they got to the front door, they couldn't see the front door.
Oh, here we go.
But the idea is change those batteries, everybody, twice a year.
Yes.
All right, so the image you should be able to see now
We do,
is,
yeah.
is the front of the house. This is taken from closer to the Hunt Club, you know, the parking lot behind the building. So you're looking down Chagrin River Road. This is fairly early on in the fire. The front of the house we refer to as the A side of the house. This is the back of the house, which is the C side. And you'll see a number of Gates Mills firefighters extending a hose line up to try and attack the fire that is into the roof assembly. This is the back corner of the house. So remember I said the front side is A, and then going clockwise, the next side of the house is B, then the back is C. So this is the BC corner, the kitchen, and there was an attached garage or an attached porch, which had a generator sitting on it and a propane grill, which the fire heated up the tank on the propane grill, and the relief valve opened up, so it was blow torching when the first truck arrived on scene in 8 minutes and 5 seconds from the time we got the call. This is the new fire truck, obviously pumping a lot of water, lots of hose, everything. The design that we put into that truck, a lot of difference. We used all of the differences that this truck has from our other trucks. We actually utilize those at this fire. That is our next truck back. Our next newest truck, 21 years old. The daytime.
Were you pumping water out of the river?
No. We use fire hydrants nowadays.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So this is the front of the house also, you know, looking around in the kind of center of the picture where the 3 steps come down. That's the front door of the house that the occupants exited. The fire started, as you're looking at that picture, it would be to the left and in the back. That's their normal egress and entry into the house through a back door off of this back porch. But being that the fire was there, they came down from the upstairs bedrooms. They heard the smoke detectors going off. The wife delayed a little bit in getting out and tried to get the family dog out of the house. And not that she delayed very long. She tripped, fell down in an upstairs hallway, got up and then ran out. By then the fire had gotten to the point where it singed her hair and she received some burns. You know, and the fire quickly followed. You know, when the fire trucks first arrived, there was fire coming out the front door that you see there by those steps, with a larger volume of fire back here at the back corner of the house, where not only was the kitchen on fire and the porch, but the propane tank was releasing and blow torching into the structure. That's that is looking, that's the kitchen of the house.
Wow.
The floor assembly you see at the bottom, that's the porch, the attached porch. Back of the house.
Hospital care that was necessary?
Pardon me?
Was there any hospital care that was necessary, or did she have to go to the emergency
She
room?
was transported to Hillcrest Hospital because the concern that she might have had some smoke inhalation and the damage that does to your lungs. She was released, you know, very quickly and was back at the fire, you know, before we even had it completely under control. The back of the house, you see a ladder that's going up to a second floor window. That's where they did lose their dog in this fire, and we did retrieve the dog for them through that window. Same window, different view of the house. Car was damaged, probably totaled, that was parked next to the house from the radiant heat. The car over to the right, the headlight assemblies melted and turn signals on the passenger side, which was closest to the fire. This is what the mayor was talking about. the debriefing that is done after every call like this. So afterwards, everyone talks about what went on. Leadership explains the tactics that were used and the strategies. Because, if you're just on a hose line, you don't really get a good picture of the entire incident. And we don't want people walking away with a lot of questions. It makes it a lot better as far as stress reduction for the crews if they all know what was done. And then when they talk about their part in it, other people learn, what was done.
It's very interesting, and it really was enlightening about a fire call.
So sad.
Thank you, Chief.
Well, welcome done, Chief, and to all our guys on our department.
Yeah.
Well,
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, they did a great job. I'd mentioned to some people that the day after tomorrow, I can complete 24 years here. And in that 24 years, this is the first total loss fire we've had. And I kind of explained to the guys, and I've said this in training often to the department members, even the city of Cleveland with full-time staffed fire stations and hundreds of firefighters still have total loss fires. And a lot of that is dependent on, how the fire has progressed before you even get there. And in this case, the way the house was constructed, it allowed the fire to get up into the roof. And once it was in the roof, being that it was plaster and lath, trying to pull the ceilings down to get that fire out was basically impossible. So we started on a defensive attack. And then once we knocked down the main body of the fire, we went to a offensive where we put people in the building. And once conditions got worse, we end up pulling the people out of the building because, there's at that point no life hazard except for the firefighters that we've put in the building. So we went back to a defensive operation and put it out from the exterior. And then after you get most of the fire out, we go in and do what's called overhaul, where we're opening up all the walls and ceilings and trying to get water in every possible place so we don't have to come back there for a rekindle. But our operations were great. Tactics were good. Strategy was good. It's unfortunate that the house, was a total loss. But as I look back at it, I wouldn't have changed a thing as far as operations. Everyone worked well. The mutual aid companies worked great with us. So, we had, one injury for the occupant and one injury for the fire department, but nothing significant.
All good.
amazing.
I'd like to, if I may, Mayor, I'd like to commend Sarah Welsh for coming to all the neighbors and taking up a collection for the families, since they really didn't have any money to go to the grocery store, or they needed to find a place to live. And so I want to compliment Sarah for coming around to the neighbors.
Oh, thank you.
Okay.
I only know she came to me, so I know she came to other people in the neighborhood that she knew to help them out, because that's a pretty devastating experience for the family, and not to have any resources at that very moment to
Right.
sustain them.
Very, very nice. Anybody have any other questions for the chief or? Okay, thank you, Chief. Next, our clerk's report.
I just wanted to say congratulations, one and all, our levy passed.
Yay.
Yay.
And the library.
And the library, yes.
Yeah.
We still have people voting no, though. We have to still work on it. I don't understand it.
You're
You're
always
correct.
going to have that.
Yeah.
There's still a lot of people.
How
We
many?
had 400 no's. That's a lot.
Really?
You're right. Absolutely right. Next are committee reports.
I have a follow-up for the safety committee. First, not exactly a follow-up, but Karen, I think it would be great, and you probably already do this, if you share the compliments that you got. So Greg could get them to our officers so they can see how pleased everyone is with our police department. Is there a way?
I believe that he does share them downstairs. I'll let him tell you. Go ahead, Greg.
Yes, I do. Typically what happens is when I receive some of these letters, Mayor gets them as well, just to make sure I photocopy all of them, make sure it goes to their appropriate supervisor and it gets into their personnel files.
Right.
Nice.
So the follow-up I have is when the safety committee met, we had discussed River Road because we had some complaints from some of the neighbors speeding on River Road, especially as you go north of Mayfield. And our service director looked into the possibility of doing a speed study. Apparently the last one that was done was in 1991, and the speed limit was reduced from 50 miles an hour to 40. The cost for a speed study is approximately $18,000. And at this point, we had some discussion and decided that rather than spend the money on a speed study, which may not be productive, thinking at best they would reduce the speed possibly 5 miles an hour or nothing at all, it would be better just to increase enforcement in that area and notify people of their speeding by posting that electronic sign that records the speeds and flashes the speed you're going. And I noticed I think it was moved to the opposite side of the road today, and it was on the east side of the road, and now it's on the west side of the road. So we're hoping that people will notice that, they'll be aware that we're enforcing that, and there will be more enforcement in that area to try to rectify that.
I also noticed a car stationed there over the weekend. A police car.
Good. And that's all I have.
Okay, other committee reports. Sandra, I think you have something.
I did, with regard to the school liaison committee, at the last Mayfield School Board meeting in October, Superintendent Kelly announced his retirement in August of 21. You probably have heard that. And obviously the school board has already begun to meet to begin the search process. He's been there for 9 years, which kind of surprised me. Time flies, and he's got over 40 years of career experience as an educator and an administrator. So even though he's still a young man, his retirement is well deserved. The other, I guess, significant part of the board meeting did talk about their 5-year projection for their revenue plan. Treasurer Scott Snyder made that report, and it's done twice a year, and this is the one for the first quarter of the school year. So obviously, as you would expect, COVID-19 has had a lot of impact on school revenue. All districts all across the state. The governor had the Department of Education reduce their budget by over $300.5 million. Fortunately or unfortunately, only about 10% of the Mayfield school revenue comes from the state. 90% comes from property tax, the commercial and residential. And given that we have a diverse property base and we're a pretty diverse economy, they're not anticipating, any long-term negative impacts on their budget. And student enrollment is anticipated to be the same. And that's consistent with the fact that the population of graduating high school students is going down. It's not as large as it has been in past years. But having said all that, sounds positive, but he did anticipate that there would be deficit spending beginning in fiscal year 23. And at that point, they might contemplate a levy or reduction of anticipated expenses, or a combination of both. And again, despite the fact that the student population or enrollment is not gonna grow, expenses still grow in terms of health insurance and salaries and liability and and everything else. There's a pretty detailed report on their website if you'd like to get more information. The other news is that starting today, the Mayfield High School has gone virtual. There were 3 students who tested positive, and 24 staff members at the high school are in quarantine. And also 2 central office staff have tested positive. So apparently they're unrelated, but again, the high school, not any other school, but the high school is all remote learning right now.
Do you think they're going to close the rest of the schools?
They're really hoping not. I mean, the message, and he gave a pretty complete, letter to the families, and just really encouraging, safety and separation and the masks and all that. He's still really hopeful that they're going to be able to continue in school and the other locations. Yeah. So the other report is about our diversity training. We're part of a 5 community training group with the Diversity Center. So it includes Gates Mills, Mayfield Village, Mayfield Heights, Highland Heights, Lyndhurst, and
Richmond Heights.
And Richmond Heights. So we completed our 3rd session on Friday. We get together for 3 hours on Friday afternoon and begin to talk about race and racism and, the history of different laws and policies and cultural differences in the Cleveland area and across the United States. It's mainly the mayors and department heads of these, communities, and a few council members. So we all participate by Zoom, and we break out into small group sessions. Some of it is, is difficult and very, very awkward to have these discussions, especially as, as majority white people. But I think they're important, and we have, I think, a total of 7. So we're just about halfway through.
7. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, 7. So my hope at the end is that, some of that out of this we'll be able to bring, some information, learnings, whatever, back to council, and maybe even at a town hall meeting sometime, to be determined. But again, I think I congratulate all of the 5 cities for their openness to participate in this.
There's 7 representatives from each of the 5 communities. So we could, there's around 30. Not everybody can attend everything, and then and some of them go in a group at their like town hall or whatever, and the other can be are individual and whatnot. And the idea is that they'll take it back to their departments, and then I'm hopeful that we'll be able to share it with council and the community, maybe in the spring. Maybe we'll get together again.
Yay. Yay.
We shall see. Anything else, Sandra? Did you want to say something about the Conservancy?
The last was about the Land Conservancy. They have their board meeting Tuesday mornings when we have our council meetings. And today, the issue of deer hunting was brought up. And I guess the occasion for the discussion was the fact that the two landowners whose property adjoins a piece of conserved property that's owned by the Land Conservancy called and complained because there was a deer stand and corn out there and that obviously there were going to be some hunters, and they hadn't gotten any notice about it. And so it just kind of brought the issue to the attention of the Land Conservancy, because they don't have a formal regulation in their easements about hunting. It's silent. So it is allowed. So there's going to be more of a discussion about it. But I think the whole issue, it generated a really good conversation with the chief about the whole process for getting permits and notifying the neighbors, and what happens if a deer is shot and goes onto somebody else's property, how is that retrieved? So, I mean, there is a process in place, but I think the fact that this came up just highlighted the fact that we probably need to communicate more clearly with residents about the process.
And also Western Reserve Land Conservancy is how it started. They do have something, I believe, about no deer hunting. It's our Gates Mills that has nothing about deer hunting. That's
right.
my
They allow deer hunting.
If I could kind of jump in here.
Yep.
So in our rules and our regulations, we do not permit deer hunting on conserved land. So I just want to kind of get that out there. In this case, as Sandra's referring to, and I talked to Sandra a little bit earlier about this, it wasn't intentional. What had happened is the Amish hunters, it was right on the property line of the Conservancy. And this one particular hunter thought that his stand was where it should have been. And there were no markings, so there was a little confusion over the property line boundary there. So he was fine. He just went ahead and moved it. So, he was very accommodating with that. So it ended up being resolved pretty quickly. But in the rules that we have in place right now, we do not allow that. We would not permit. We would never issue a permit for them to hunt on conserved land, or village-owned property for that matter.
Okay. Any other questions or reports? Okay, thank you, Sandra. Next is the police department. Greg?
Thank you, Mayor. Members of council, everybody should have received a copy of my monthly report. I will be happy to answer any of your questions. The one thing that I wanted to kind of keep separate from what you have on my council report there is I put a summary of the flock safety cameras there. I'm hoping that everybody had a chance to kind of review that. Wanted to make sure he was, understanding of what they're all about. And certainly, if anybody has any questions, feel free to, speak their mind or ask any question you may have regarding them. You can see also, and I didn't print out all 5. I gave the basic sheet right here on the one sheet that you should have in color. That's our deployment plan right now. You can kind of see it there. That's just kind of an overview. There's a lot of pages to this, so I just wanted to get a snapshot of it for you. So what we have here kind of planned, what we're looking at is primarily the Gates Mills Boulevard area and two eastbound, one westbound, one at Old Mill and West Hill. And then the 5th one, it's kind of tough to make out, but it's going to be on West Hill Drive on the north side of Mayfield. Not for Mayfield road traffic, for pretty much the residential area going, northbound on West Hill Drive. So we wouldn't pick up anything on Mayfield Road coming west.
The materials were very helpful, Chief.
Thank you. So, Chief, is there competition for this kind of camera?
What kind of competition are you referring to?
Somebody else that offers the same service for less money?
Well, they call the ones that we know. This is the lowest one. This is a newer company, so we're kind of getting in on the ground floor with them. The ones that you have in some of the neighboring communities are actually much more expensive, very much more. So the pricing is very competitive, and there's no doubt in my mind that we're getting a great price with this.
Do you find there's some of these that are the more expensive ones on Mayfield Road further down?
Yeah, there are. All throughout I think Mayfield Heights has, and I tell you, I think they have probably about 8 different ones, 8 or 10 at the intersections. You don't even know that they're there. Mayfield and Som. They have Monceda Road. There's some, I think, Lander Road. They're all around the city.
And they're very expensive by comparison.
They're very expensive. Yeah, they jumped on board with that probably about 2-3 years ago. So I think the cost will start coming down, but it is with a different company.
And some of the surrounding communities will have cameras, so, for example, Cedar Road, so you don't feel having one over there because there's already going to be one from Honey Valley in that case.
Two that
That's
we know
correct.
of on Cedar.
I believe 2. They're putting 2 on Cedar, 1 for eastbound traffic, 1 for west. So we kind of work together on the deployment of these. So you're correct. It wouldn't benefit either community for us to put a camera over there. They already have 2. So, that's kind of the beauty of it. Pepper Pike is also jumping on board with these types of cameras because, we could work together with them. They could tap into our cloud storage, and we could do the same. So,
And,
I also want to stress, let's say something did happen, I don't know, on Mayfield Road westbound, they could conceivably turn left onto Gates Mills Boulevard and you could pick up. So even if something happened in another area of the village, they could still drive past one of these cameras.
I'm just curious where you have the 5 concentrated. For example, when you go, I guess it would be north on River, all the way towards the Metro Parks, as an example, or County Line. The village obviously goes very far north. So are there going to be communities out there that will have cameras or?
Well, you're not going to be able to hit every place. That's obvious. We're trying to focus on the western edge of the village, so to speak, just because in my experience, and usually when you have, some significant crimes of significance, let's say, generally speaking, they have a tendency to go west and not east. So, we don't have a whole lot of things that happen and then, they go into, say, Geauga County. Usually it's west. So we want to try to button up the western edge of the village as much as we can.
Okay.
In a perfect world, sure. You'd like to add more and more. We want to see how this goes. I think we support, let's take baby steps with these, see how they're going to work out. And, if it's a situation where we want to go ahead and, start adding those to the north end of the village, we can. But, some of the locations, see, these are solar, remember, they could be hardwired, but it's additional expense. And where we have these deployed, the connectivity is good. It's going to work out fine. We've had, the companies come out, they've done some testing for us. We're not going to have any issues with that. When you get to the north side with all the trees and the foliage, it's not going to be as easy.
And it's possible Willoughby's looking at this too, didn't you say, Chief?
Willoughby, I don't think Willoughby. I know Wickliffe. They may be, but the ones I know for sure, a lot of the Lake County departments are Eastlake, Wickliffe, Willowick. I think you're right, Mayor. I think Willoughby is, now that you mention it. They are, in fact.
So,
Yes, they
so are we going ahead, or are you coming to council for a final approval, or what's the status at this point?
So I think, the mayor might have a couple things to say about that moving forward. But so the way this would work is, just so everybody understands. So what happens is it's a minimum of a 2-year contract. So once you sign the contract, and once they're installed, then you have 60 days. It's like no money we don't pay them for, the earliest we'd be able to make payment would be in like March, quite honestly. So it takes 45 days to get to the ground. So, not that we would, but let's say we went ahead and, we secured a contract tomorrow, we signed on it, we have 45 days install. And then from that point, you get another 60 days to kind of try it out, no obligation. And so that's when the payment would come in. So we're talking probably the first quarter of next year.
Chief, is there maintenance on these, and is maintenance part of the contract?
It's all part of the contract. They do everything for us.
Okay.
So you would come to council sometime first quarter, or once you've determined that this is the way forward. Is that right? Okay.
Well, I would.
If you decided that it was not the way forward, they would be uninstalled.
Correct.
So it will be in the budget for next year?
Yes, it's part of
Greg,
down the road.
can we sign a contract without legislation? Hi, Todd. For flock safety, can they sign the contract and get them installed and do a trial without legislation?
Is the amount in the budget?
It will be in the budget for next year because there would be payment next year.
The budget hasn't been approved for next year,
Correct.
so there wouldn't need to be legislation, I would think.
There would not be?
There would need.
There would be. I
That's
see.
what I was wondering.
And it's part of also what I'm starting with this safety fund, because we already have some residents that would like to donate money. One would be anonymously, which we can do, is why we're setting up a safety fund. And within that fund, the donation would come in there and it would be specifically used toward this camera install and rental of the equipment.
So Karen, it sounds like what you're saying is your safety fund could act as seed money to get this thing up and running. And should we decide after 60 days that we like it and it has a future for Gates Mills and the police chief and everybody is like on board, then we would make it a budget item to say, well, so now we're going to pursue a contract for a year or two, but your fund gives you a little seed money.
It would give us 2 years to try them.
So when do we need to sign the contract?
That's,
like to hear-
that's for you, Greg.
Yeah, I mean, we could, honestly, we could, if we're gonna move forward with these, then, that could be done probably
I
next
don't
week.
think we have to do the contract until we've done the trial. Isn't that part of it?
Well, no, it has to be a signed contract. It has to be
Okay.
a signed contract.
So when do they anticipate,
On to the next meeting.
when do they anticipate installing?
45 days from the day we sign the contract.
So Todd, I guess my question is if effectively the contract would be funded by a gift, by a donation, does that still require council approval?
I don't believe so. There's nothing in our charter ordinances that would require that.
So you would,
There's a
we would be
50
able, given that we have a service fund and a donor that has agreed to give this money for 2 years, then we wouldn't need to have council approval to sign a contract for that 2 years.
That's correct, as long as it's under $50,000.
And I think what's going to happen is we're going to establish the fund tonight. And then hopefully between now and maybe the next council meeting or the end of the year, once the funds are in that account, then we would go forward with the notification to the company to
Okay.
get going on it.
There will need to be
the
council
plan.
acceptance of the donations, so that can be done on at your December 8th meeting.
I also am confused now about budgeting. So if we have these funds for 2 years, how does that, and they're in a special fund, how does that fit into the budget?
Well, it would not, because it would be, well, other than that, it would be a wash in the budget between the donation and the
But it would
and
still
the
be
expenditure.
Listed, but it won't be,
okay.
It won't be part of your general operating income.
Right, that's correct. It'll come out of a fund to this expenditure.
But from a budget standpoint, it's not going into general operating, the formula.
Right.
That's fine. Just wanna,
any other questions? Anything else you want to say about them, Chief?
Not really. I mean, I'm very comfortable with it. I think this would be a great product for us. I do. And there's a lot of things that it does do. I mean, I'm just kind of highlighting the investigatory portion of it. I don't think we see a lot of these, but it does notify you if there's stolen cars, or you have missing persons, because you're tied into the NCIC, the leads, the police. everything that we do now, I think it's tied into this. So officers log on to the web-based system, and that's how they know. They get notifications if, so let's say, a car is driving eastbound on Gates Mills Boulevard, just as an example. The officer's logged in, he's doing his regular patrol, and all of a sudden he gets an alert. So we do know that there is a stolen car coming into Gates Mills. Now, we could check the camera. Now, obviously, the officer's going to respond to that area. They're going to see maybe somebody's coming in to commit some kind of a crime, or maybe they're just passing through. We don't know. So, that's what these cameras do. They make notifications to the officers. And the officers will go up there and they'll check things out. And if they don't see a vehicle, then they could also log into the system, see if it went by multiples, and see if it passed out of town.
And to circle back to Nancy's point, which she did get a comment from a resident who was on our Zoom meeting last month, the resident said, good news to let the word out, we've got cameras on duty as a deterrent to crime.
Absolutely.
So I think Nancy's comment last month about this all being very proactive about keeping crime, being proactive about keeping crime out of the village before it even starts is a great thing. And so if we go ahead with this project, I would love to publicize the fact that we've got these cameras on duty. Even if it saves 1 or 2 home break-ins, it's worth it.
Agreed. Anybody else? Okay, thank you, Chief. Let's move to Service Department. Dave?
Thank you, Mayor. Members of council, you should have received a copy of my monthly report. I'm happy to answer any questions. I will just make a quick note. I know this is really for next month, but this past Saturday, we did have an electronics recycling that was very successful. We had 7, I don't know the term for I guess I'd say very large boxes that were full that we will deliver to the company for recycling. And we did receive a lot of positive response from our residents that we do this for them. So thanks to Jean for setting it up for us, and Jeff from the service department who coordinated with Jean and took care of it Saturday, but it was very, very successful.
So my question is, what do we do with an old TV?
Hang on to it until spring and we'll do another one.
This one said no TVs. So what does a homeowner do with an old?
I know we had a resident who called, and maybe Jean, I can get some information out. They'll take them, but they charge extra for it. Ideally, they'd rather not take them, but they will take them, but I think it's like an extra $25.
Best Buy will recycle your TV.
Best Buy?
But only if you buy another one, I thought, Nancy.
No,
No?
you drop it off in the front.
Really? Even one of those big old TVs?
Big old those TVs.
We took several up there.
Good to know.
Just leave it by
That's a good tip.
I thought they charged for that. I thought when I checked, they charged. So I had a 1-800 got junk trip with a lot of things, and they took a lot of TVs as part of that with no extra charge. It was just part of their fee.
Okay.
Good to know.
One time I woke up in the morning and someone had just dumped a console TV in my front yard.
Swell.
There's the third way.
For a way to get rid of it, just put it in someone's front yard.
God.
Yeah, yours, Janet.
That concludes
Oh,
my
boy.
report.
Thank you, Dave. Next is Fire Department. Tom?
Got your report.
Thank you, Mayor and members of council. You should have received a copy of October's report from the fire department. A pretty average month. We are running behind as far as 2019 year-to-date calls, and the same is true for EMS,
Thankfully.
thankfully.
Chief, do you have to change your batteries for the alarms once a year or twice a year?
Well, we recommend that you change it when you change the clocks, which would be twice a year.
Wow.
And the chief puts it in the pink sheet twice a year.
And Chief, have you ever gotten an explanation of how the designers of the alarms have designed it so that when a battery does fail, that it happens at 3 a.m. in the morning so that you get the loud beep if your batteries run out of juice. Never happens during the day, only at 3 a.m. in the morning, so.
Well, they want to make sure you're home to hear it.
Yeah, fairly.
That's just a guess.
Good point, Tom. Good touche.
If there are no other questions, that concludes the fire department report.
Thank you, Chief. Okay, next is Resolution 2020-39. Chip.
Yes, this is a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter in an agreement with AKE Environmental and Construction Services, Inc. for services for the operation of the Gates Mills wastewater treatment plant and pump station and declaring an emergency. So I think I move to suspend the rules first.
Second,
Jay made a motion, seconded by Nancy. Allworder,
Yes.
Frankel,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Sog,
yes.
Turner,
Yes.
Welsh,
Yes.
Whitney.
Yes.
All right, and before I then put the motion forth, I did have a question I didn't have a chance to follow up. Dave, this $29,039.96, is that for 1 year? Is this, what are we technically authorizing here? Is this for a 1-year agreement or?
It's a 2-year agreement. And I would guess I would classify that as kind of a not to exceed or worst case. Again, this is kind of giving them all the responsibility every day of the week. And then as we move forward and we get either myself or other members of the service department up to speed on things we can do, then we would be less. So that's kind of a worst case per year for a 2-year contract.
Then, Todd, is it possible as we approve this that we can put in there not to exceed $29,039.96 per year? Because it doesn't say that.
Sure. Yes.
That was my confusion. I thought it was an annual number. So is that appropriate, Dave, to just clarify that that's per year?
Yeah, either way, sure.
Okay. So with that modification, I move to approve Resolution 2020-39, authorizing the mayor to enter an agreement with AKE Environmental.
Second.
May I interrupt quickly? Under
Sure.
section 1, in the middle of this, it says Gates Mills wastewater treatment plant and pump station in an amount not to exceed 29,000.
The contract itself says 28,000 something for 2 years, not per year, 2 years.
Right, but that's the base operation. If you add the other things in that are
Okay.
also in the contract, it comes out to 28 and some change per year. Because there's an additional $500 charge for, I believe, checking it every day per month, so times 12. So it ends up
$510,
being
yes. Okay,
28 per year for 2 years.
all right.
This is a significant savings over having Cuyahoga County do this, right? They were paying,
Absolutely.
we were paying about $100,000 to them, right?
Yeah, unbelievable.
Yeah.
At what point do we end the contract with the county?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question.
At what point will we end the contract that we have with the county now? Does that have to be with certain amount of days notice or?
No, we've contacted them, kind of given them what our intent is. In talking with AKE, we kind of maybe want to have a little bit of an overlap so that the new guy can kind of just see, not that he doesn't know what he's doing, but Chris and I discussed it a little bit, and then we talked with AKE, and they felt it wouldn't hurt if there's a day or two he can just kind of follow the guy around. So ideally, we're looking at, AKE had said it's always good because of the EPA reporting to start at the first of a month. So we may have some dovetailing the remainder of this month, and then kind of either take over December 1st or January 1st would be with AKE.
Yeah, don't hesitate sooner, given $20,000 a month charge from the county, so. All right, so I think I have a motion on the floor.
Who seconded?
I'll second it.
Sandra.
Okay, Sandra. Allworder,
Yes.
Frankel,
Yes.
Reynolds, Sog,
Yes.
Turner,
Yes.
Welsh,
Yes.
Whitney.
Yes.
Great. Okay, next is resolution 2020-40. Larry?
Yeah, this is a resolution authorizing the sale of an unneeded item of specific personal property of the Village of Gates Mills through internet auction by govdeals.com Inc. And this is for the 2015 Ford Explorer, which has about a little over 110,000 miles on it, and it has now outlived its useful service. So we would like to suspend the rules, and so that we can get the police vehicle on auction.
Second.
Make a motion to suspend the rules.
Second.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Chip, okay. Allworder,
Yes.
Frankel,
Yes.
Reynolds, Sog,
Yes.
Turner,
Yes.
Welsh,
Yes.
Whitney.
Yes.
Okay, and then I would like to get a motion, make the motion to accept the resolution authorizing the sale of the unneeded item of specific personal property of the Village of Gates Mills through internet auction by govdeals.com Inc.
Second.
Motion seconded by Chip. Allworder,
Yes.
Frankel,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Sog,
Yes.
Turner,
Yes.
Welsh,
Yes.
Whitney.
Yes.
Okay, next is ordinance number 2020-41. And this is the safety fund. Larry, do you want to speak to it?
Yes, I'll just say that we want to set up a safety fund because we have had one of our villagers be kind enough to voluntarily donate money for the flock system. So we need to set up a fund in which we can accommodate that gift, and also other members of the village, if they have certain funds that they would like to donate for other safety issues, we'd be glad to accept them. So I'd like to suspend the rules and propose ordinance authorizing the creation of a new fund known as the Safety Fund for the deposit of funds dedicated to the purposes of the police department, the fire department, and all other safety purposes for the Village of Gates Mills.
I'll second that happily.
Yes.
Seconded by Mary Reynolds. Allworder,
Yes.
Frankel,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Sog,
Yes.
Turner,
Yes.
Welsh,
Yes.
Whitney.
Yes.
Before I introduce the ordinance for acceptance, I would like to formally thank the villager who anonymously is donating these funds, because this is really a great thing that they're doing for the safety of all of us. So deeply appreciate it.
I was thinking the same thing, that we're very lucky to live in a community where some of our residents are so generous.
Right.
In terms of,
And let me just say, we have other interests from residents to donate to this fund that Greg and I already know about. So this is, it's just a tremendous asset to us.
very
Yes,
Yeah.
terrific.
I'd like to enter the motion for ordinance number 2020-41 to set up the safety fund for funds for the purposes of the police department, fire department, and all other safety purposes for the Village of Gates Mills.
Second.
unanimously, we all second that. It's never been done before, but I think we're going to do it tonight.
Okay. Allworder,
Yes.
Frankel,
Yes.
Reynolds, Sog,
Yes.
Turner,
Yes.
Welsh,
Yes.
Whitney.
Yes.
Great, thank you. Next is resolution 2020-42.
I was
Mary?
going to do this.
Larry?
Larry and I spoke, and I think it's his motion to introduce to council.
Okay.
So first, we want to make an addition on page 2 in the top line. Whereas Bloom Brothers Supply has offered the price of $3,508 to Gates Mills for the purchase, and we want to add of a heavy-duty commercial washer and dryer unit. There was some question as to why a washer dryer should be so expensive, but this is a heavy-duty commercial washer. It's also used for the turnout gear for the fire department, so it has to be a substantial ability to take care of those needs. So we're going to add that. And I'd like to introduce a resolution authorizing Village of Gates Mills purchases with CARES Act funds and declaring an emergency. And I'd like to suspend the rules.
Second.
That was Nancy.
Seconded by Nancy. Allworder,
Yes.
Frankel,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Sog,
Yes.
Turner,
Yes.
Welsh,
Yes.
Whitney.
Yes.
And I've just, on the back page, there is the breakdown of various items where the monies will be spent. The largest, which is the AV project for technology for having Zoom meetings and web-based meetings and being able to project our meetings to the village during COVID times. I was concerned with the cost of that, but I later found out that there have been 3 estimates and they're all within this neighborhood. So we have good pricing on what we need here. So with that, I would like to introduce resolution number 2020-42. Resolution authorizing Village of Gates Mills purchases with CARES Act funds and declaring an emergency.
Second.
Seconded by Nancy Sog. Allworder,
Yes.
Frankel,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Sog,
Yes.
Turner,
Yes.
Welsh,
Yes.
Whitney.
Yes.
Great, thank you. Next, we have business from the audience, and I see that the doctors are listening. I don't know if anybody else is on. Tom?
We have 8 people watching, and we have had no questions during that time.
Okay. Any other questions or thoughts from council or anyone?
No, but before I make a motion to adjourn, just as you were mentioning that tomorrow was the appreciation lunch with the food trucks.
Service lunch, yes.
The service luncheon. It occurred to me when I looked at the date that it's also Veterans Day.
Right.
So I would just like to shout out to every veteran in Gates Mills, no matter what department of service that they performed in, that we appreciate their service, and we should all take a moment out to remember Veterans Day.
Very good.
If there isn't any other comments, I guess my job is to make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Allworder,
Yes.
Frankel,
Yes.
Reynolds, Sog,
Yes.
Turner,
Yes.
Welsh,
Yes.
Whitney.
Yes.
Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving.
Thank you, you too.
Thank you. You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.